Welcome back to the Old Tech Bloke channel, or OTB. This is the third episode in my series of setting up the Intel NUC for YouTube video production. Episode 1 looked at the hardware I've put together. Episode 2 was setting up a dual boot system between Windows 10 and Ubuntu Mate. And in this episode we move on to look at OBS, setting up OBS so that you can actually use it for recording video that can be uploaded. OBS is as easy or as complex as you make it. I'm going to cover the basics here, which should get you up and running within 10 to 15 minutes. I've used Simple Screen Recorder to record my configuration of OBS, and then I've swapped and changed backwards and forwards between the two programs, OBS and Simple Screen Recorder. Anyway, see what you think. Let's go. So on to OBS then. The first thing I need to do after installing it is simply to launch it. And I shall maximize that on my screen. Now, for the sake of illustrating exactly what happens here, I have renamed my own old config file so that OBS has started up as if it is in first time mode. And as soon as you start it, it's going to offer to run a wizard for you to set up some basic settings. It doesn't do a huge amount, but simply click yes and follow along. It asks whether or not you'd like to optimize it for streaming or recording, and for me it's recording, so I'll set yes. What do I want to use as my base canvas resolution? I'm not going to use 1920 by 1080. I'm aware of the limitations of my hardware and it just takes too long to encode. So I'm going to set it at 1280 by 720 and just click next. OBS will now query my hardware to try and find what it thinks are the best settings for me. Once it's run and given me some answers, I'll accept them. I'll then go into the settings dialog and make some adjustments. So it's set the base canvas resolution at 1280 by 720. It's suggesting that I scale that output down to 853 by 480 and stick to 30 frames per second. Okay, let me apply on that. I'm then going to go into the settings dialog box and make a few adjustments. The first option is your general option, which gives you the possibility of setting it to a different language, playing about with themes, and a number of other things that I leave completely at default. You then move on to stream and you set the service you want to stream to and obviously enter your stream key. This isn't something that I've done so far. I've been far more interested in the third option, which is all about output. The first run wizard set my video bitrate to 2500, which seems a bit low if you have an NVIDIA card or an AMD card. You're probably going to be around 4000 with that. I've experimented a little bit, but 2500 seems about right for myself. The encoding software, I only have one option here at the moment, to encode using software, the X264 encoder. It's very slow. It has a tendency to drop frames, but we can resolve that issue in a minute, and I'm going to show you how. Going down to the recording section, it asks what sort of recording quality I want. It defaults to high quality medium file size. I'm going to leave it as that. And then you choose your recording format. I've tried FLV, I've tried MP4. Personally, I seem to get the best results using MKV, so I'm simply going to set it to that. Now, in order to install the latest version of OBS, I added a PPA, which brought down version 23. The default version on Ubuntu 19.04 is version 22 something. Now, it wouldn't be a problem except for the fact there's been a big change in version 23. Intel CPUs have something called QuickSync, which allows video encoding to be passed off to the onboard GPU. And this is something that the OBS version for Windows has had for some time. But it's only just been introduced in the Linux version in version 23, hence the reason that I've added the PPA. The way that you access this on OBS is to go right to the top of the output menu, and where it says output mode, set it from simple to advanced. You then get a number of sections for streaming, recording, audio and replay buffer. The big thing here though is right down at the bottom, right here at the top, we have the option to choose an encoder. We've no longer just got X264, we can choose FFmpeg VA API, which means that OBS will be able to offload some of the encoding work direct to the GPU. Other than that, everything's still pretty straightforward. The bitrate is 2500. I want all of my outputs rescaled to 1280 by 720. If I move on to the recording tab, I'll again set my recording format to MKV and encoder FFmpeg VA API. Rescale the output to 1280 by 720. Everything else I leave as default. The audio section, I haven't touched anything there, and the replay buffer, I haven't touched anything there at all. So moving down to the audio section, the only thing here I've done is I've set my microphone to my Yeti stereo microphone. Video, again, one small change to set everything to 1280 by 720. Hotkeys, you can set them if you wish, I haven't touched them so far. And advanced, I've done nothing with advanced so far. So just apply and click OK. So with those basic settings, we're now ready to go. I have the canvas here of 1280 by 720, which I can populate with various items. So we've set everything up. The next stage is simply to set up our scenes and our sources. Now, I tend to have 3 scenes set up. What I call main, intro, and defaults. By default, I just mean a picture of the webcam. You can set up as many of these as you want. You just click the plus sign and set up another scene. Once you've set up the scene, the next thing you do is you add in your sources. Now, for all of my scenes, I like to have a custom background in. So if I click on main and then go to the sources, I'm going to add an image. I'm going to call that background, as that's what it is. And then I'm going to browse for it. Now I know I've got it in a folder there called OBS stuff, and it's actually that. And as you can see, I've got one of my custom backgrounds there. It's also a good idea to any text that you need to put in to add this now. So again, in the sources window, I'm going to add text. If I change the name of that to headline, I know what I'm talking about, and suddenly I will get this box where I just have to type in whatever I want. So How about setting up OBS, which is what this tutorial is all about. You can select the font there and select any font that you want. That's not a problem. Click OK. If you want to set different colours, you can do that from there, but let's just leave this as standard. And you'll see that what that's done is it's created a text box that says setting up OBS. I can just drag that down to where I want it. What that means is you don't have to keep opening your background in GIMP every time you do a new video. You can just set up the text. Now in each of my screens I'm going to go through the same process. So let's now move to the intro. In actual fact, on the intro I'm not going to have the background. What I'm going to put there is my little animated intro that I normally have. So that would be a media source. I click OK. I go and find it. And there you go. My media source is now imported. Last but not least, I'll go to default and I will add my background again. So I'll add an image, and it gives me the opportunity to add an existing image that's on one of the other scenes. Well, I want to add the background, so I'm just going to click OK. I also there want to add the text. We've already got existing text, the headline. Click on that, drag that down. OK. And you can move your scenes about into whatever order that you want. So let's have a look at main to start off with. Let's bring in a web browser. First, I'll need to open up a web browser. So let's open up Firefox. Let's try again, Firefox. There we go. That's opened up on my second screen. Now, in order to add that to my screen, I click plus, window capture. Click OK, and you will actually, where it says window, get a choice of the various things that you've got open on the desktop. As you can see there, I've got Start Page Mozilla Firefox, so if I click on that, this is what it's looking at. I normally try and crop the web browser at the top so that you don't see the menu and the URL bar. And I can do that quite easily by going to one of these boxes where I crop the top. You can crop the left, the right and the bottom as well. Almost there? Yeah, that looks about right. And click OK. So there's the web browser. It's a little big at the moment for my background, but not a problem. I can resize it and stick it wherever I want. I could also bring in a picture, an image of my desktop. So let's do that. I've already got background, but I don't want that. I want a different one. And let's have a look. Have we got anything in there? Yeah, a picture of the kit I've got, which I think you've seen on a previous video. Again, it's a little bigger than I need it, so I can just drag it to size and position it where I want. Finally, I can bring in a webcam. So again, in the sources window, I select video capture device. There's no existing one already selected, so that's absolutely fine. There we go, the video capture device. Let me set the resolution quite small. That's probably about right for this. And again, I can slightly resize it and position it where I want. Normally I spend quite a bit of time laying out the window that I'm going to broadcast from. Up to you what you put on here. Now, if we go back to the sources window, you will see that next to each of these entries, there's a padlock if you want to lock an entry so it can't be removed. And there's also this little eye. If I click the eye, it turns off the image. So I could, for instance, turn off the browser as well. I'll turn it back on and turn on the webcam. Really flexible. You can bring whatever you like into your basic OBS window. So let me go back down to the intro that I've already brought in. You might have noticed that there is no sound with this introduction. It's a media file. The screen's gone blank now because the media file has already played. If I go back to the sources window and click it off and then click it back on again, it replays again. If I wanted sound to be there whilst I'm actually putting something together, it's really straightforward. I simply go to my mixer panel down at the bottom and right-click the cog and select Advanced Audio Properties. You'll see my media sources there. Rather than having the monitor off, I will set it to Monitor and Output. And if I click this on and off again, you should see the change. And there you have it. Let me go to my default view now. I generally have at least one scene where I will just have the webcam in. So straightforward enough. Add a source, video capture device. Yes, I want to add an existing source, please. Oops, I have to highlight it. And I can, of course, resize it to fit. If I'm not happy with the resolution I've got there, I can right click and go into properties and set it much bigger. Or actually, that might be a little bit big. Just keep changing it until you get what you want. Let me go back into properties again, and perhaps I will set it by 1280 by 720 this time. And there we go. It's the right sort of shape now. So that's all there is to it, really. Set up your scenes, decide how many you need, and then to each of your scenes, add the sources that you require. When you're ready to record, you simply go over to the right-hand side and click Start Recording. And it will save a video file in whatever directory you've asked it to do so. When you finish recording, the Start Recording button will turn to stop. So finally, if you're lucky, that's all you'll have to do in order to set up OBS, and you'll have a recording and all's good. However, OBS is a program with lots of different tools, most of which I haven't actually played with. For instance, if I go to my video capture device, I right click and select filters. There's a whole range of audio and video filters that you can add, as well as effect filters. All you do is click the plus and add the filter of your choice. It even has a chroma key if you have a green screen behind you. So, colour correction, I haven't used it, but I've set it up on my webcam, and as you can see, You can play with it to your heart's content. Brightness might be quite handy. I'm not sure it looks any better what I've just done. I have no idea what gamma is, but hey. Hue and shift. Perhaps not. But something to play with in your own time to see what you think. I'm going to close that. I'm now going to remove it. Okay. What I particularly struggled with when I did my first video, and some of you may have noticed it on my second video, was making sure that the audio and the video was in sync. I struggled with this, but I found a few things that helped me. If you right click on the video capture device and go into the properties, I found that the video format that was originally specified by default was this YUYV 4x2x2. I played around a little bit and I found that YV12 emulated helped a lot. It cleaned up the video and it stopped some of the lag. One of the biggest things that I changed was buffering. Initially, use buffering was actually ticked. I found that created quite a lag. Once I took that away, my picture improved and the audio and video was a lot better. It wasn't perfect, but it was a lot better. So, I needed essentially to delay my audio slightly because it was running ahead of the webcam source. It's very easy to do this in OBS. If you go to the mixer panel and where it says mic, right click again, the little cog, and select advanced audio properties. You have a setting here for sync and offset. And after trial and error, I found that I was a couple of hundred microseconds off. I needed to delay the mic or the volume by 200 microseconds. Once I'd done that, everything was good. I struggled a little bit to find out exactly what the amount was that I needed, and you might have to play around for a while to find the right setting for you. The thing that helped me was VLC. If you record an example clip and you play it in VLC, just by hitting the J and the K buttons individually, you can either advance your audio or delay your audio. And because you've got a visual representation there and then, I was able to find that 200 milliseconds was the perfect setting for me. And people, that's OBS. That's the end of episode 3. I really hope you enjoyed it. In the next episode, I'm going to progress my discussion of OBS by looking at some of the tweaks I had to make to the C920 webcam that I've been using. It plays great in Windows, but in its default configuration, not so great on Linux. However, there are a few simple fixes that can be applied. I'm hoping to do that by the weekend. It will be a very short video. I've been off this week doing some decorating, so I'm hoping to get 2 videos out this week. After that, I'll then go on to look at video editing with the likes of Kdenlive and also OpenShot, which I've been using today, which I'm quite impressed at. But for now, thanks very much. Stay well.